episode of Jay Leno's Garage. As you can see, today we're going to talk about dune buggies. This is a fairly modern one. It's got a Subaru engine in it. But this one here, this is a legendary dune buggy because this is the very first Meyers Manx. Bruce Meyers is the guy who, well, didn't really invent the dune buggy, but made it what it is today. The first guy to make it out of fiberglass, and this is the very first car. He did this over 50 years ago, and we are proud to say he's with us tonight. Bruce, come on in. Bruce, how are you?
Hi, Jay.
Now, how old are you going to be on your next birthday?
I'll be 89.
89, there you go, and still doing it. And he's crawling in and out of this thing like a kid. Now, you've got quite a bit of history, because I remember reading about you when I was a teenager. You were a surfer, and you're a World War II veteran, and just kind of a artsy guy. I know your mom was kind of famous, wasn't she?
My mom was a song plugger, and we're talking about the language they used just after World War I. The song plugger was put in stage plays and all kinds of fancy places where the people could watch the new song being sung.
Right.
She was the singer for the Robbins Music Corporation, I believe, and she was part of the Tin Pan Alley cacophony.
Okay, so that's the art side. On the mechanical side, now this is fascinating. Your dad knew Henry Ford, was a race car, did 3 Indianapolis 500s, correct?
Well, he was a riding mechanic.
Right. Well, those were the days when you had 2 men in the car.
Yes.
And the mechanic had to hold on and pump oil.
Well, I asked him, I said, Dad, what did you do as a riding mechanic? He says, well, mostly we changed tires because tires wouldn't go 500 miles.
Right.
And he says, we always had 2 or 3 on the back. And of course, the other thing was I had to give the engine a squirt.
Yeah.
Because the oil wasn't automatic like it is today.
And he knew all the Apollo, Barney Oldfield.
Yeah.
He knew all the races of the
that
day.
was his part of my dad's language, was all those great names of Eddie Rickenbacker and Henry Ford and Chevrolet and all those guys. They were all hanging out. They were just plain people. They weren't big time yet.
Right, right. So this is how this car comes to be. You got the art side from your mom that gives you the design, and the mechanical side from your dad. That fair to say?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. So tell us how this whole thing started. I know people were running around in homemade cars for years, but what brought this whole idea together for you?
I was part of that homemade car thing a little bit. At least I wasn't. My friends were, and I was hanging out with them. They were homemade sand dune buggies that we played with in the local dunes, Pismo Beach, and down by the Algodones dunes. And those cars were made with steel frames. They always had Volkswagen-based, at least when I came along. And because they were rear engine, they were very light. They had a huge advantage over the old water pumper dune buggy, which had been around for many years, which were made out of old Fords and Chevys. The farmer hacked up this stuff and welded it together. Horrible looking welding.
Right, right. And those were the days when you could just go on the beach in California and just...
That's right.
There was no, you can't bring that here.
Well, you know, the beaches then, when the tide went out, we used to race our bikes, our motorcycles.
Yeah.
That's we'd have what we called stake races.
Right.
We'd drive a couple of stakes in the sand about the length of that room next door, and we'd race around the 2 stakes. And the cops would sit up there and watch us.
Yeah. Try that now. Let me know how that works out. So tell us about this car here. And this is, I can't get over, this is the very first one. And I'm so glad you've kept it all these years. I remember seeing this in Hot Rod and Carcraft, because everybody in the early 60s was building hot rods with 32 Fords. Here was a whole new idea to use fiberglass. And this is, boy, this is really thick. This is like boat fiberglass, isn't it?
I'm a quality guy.
Yeah.
I'm a kid that never grew up. I'm still loving those cars that Mickey and Donald and Minnie and Andy Gump and all those guys drove. These funny little cars with great big wheels. There was really no room for their body, but that didn't matter.
Right.
I just carried that somehow subliminally into my later life, which I think I ever dropped my boyhood. Mm-hmm. And I did this in my spare time at night as kind of a spoof. Well, and I think I was driven by those cartoon cars.
Yeah. You will always be recognized as the guy who started it.
Thank you, Jay.
Who invented it. I mean, that's why I invited, it was an honor to have you here today. We had a bunch of guys show up waiting in line. They want to get their car signed because they wanted to meet you. I mean, years from now, will always be remembered as the guy who started it.
You're very eloquent about that.
Oh, no, it's true. It's true because you were a hero of mine when I was a kid because you invented a new type of hot rodding, you know, using small engines that nobody. When I was a kid, you could buy Volkswagens used for $50, and people just throw them away. And all of a sudden, you came along and utilized something that nobody had ever thought to utilize before. So those of us that enjoy automobiles and hot rodding, we owe you a great deal of gratitude, because it's just a new, different type of hot rodding, and it all comes from you. So thank you very much. I defy anybody, but most people, give me the name of another dune buggy manufacturer. Nobody. This is the only name people know. It's the only one they know.
We now have a service where we authenticate your dune buggy.
Okay.
And providing it's a real Manx, you'll get a certificate, kind of a hero badge.
Yeah.
And new emblems and another tag that is etched to go into your car. So prove forever after that this is a real Meyers Manx.
Well, you know, there's a guy named Galen Glovier. He travels around. He confirms real Hemi cars. This is an actual Hemi car. It's not a copy. And of course, Ferrari has the Classique Center, where this is an actual Ferrari with no other. So this is kind of cool that you're doing that. So you are the Carroll Shelby of dune buggies. So it's very cool.
Wow.
It's very cool. So let me ask you about, these are what, propane tanks?
No, those are a joke. No, that's part of the BS of.
I mean, were they propane tanks you just converted?
No, they're not propane. They're oxygen bottles.
Oxygen bottles. Okay. Now, if I was gonna become a human bomb and ram a fence to let the other guys go through, I would put that up front, fill it with gas, and then crash into the wall, because it looks like a World War II movie where, okay, there's that Nazi tank. Johnson, get in there. And that seems really dangerous to me.
Are you trying to look for a word, dumb?
Yeah, you know, maybe that's the word. But could I drive this one? I would love to be able to take it.
Please, go.
Really?
Go.
Okay, this is cool. I've been waiting for this since I was 14. They never told me, how much did this cost in 1964?
The kit cost $965.
$965.
Yes.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. But then they got down into $300 or $400, right?
That's right. After I came to my senses and started using the floor pan, the Volkswagen floor pan had, of course, all the answers that I was not using, and suddenly I was able to make a profit at about $300.
Wow, that's great. And look, I've got an official Meyers Manx hat too, so there you go. Where'd the name Manx come from?
Road and Track magazine.
Oh.
I was married to Shirley then, and one day Shirley went to work up the hill to Road and Track's offices, and she took a piece of paper around the office, and it came back after 30-some answers. 4 of them said Manx.
Oh, okay.
Now those people are literate kinds of people, and I thought I'll hang my hat on that. And then Elaine Bond, who was the real engine of that place, said it should be Meyers Manx, Bruce.
Right, yeah.
I said no. Well, it stuck that way.
Oh, I like Meyers Manx.
She says it'll be good for you someday.
Yeah. See, she knew what she was talking about. But it's amazing how well this fiberglass structure is held up. I don't see any cracks in it.
Well, I was all about boats.
Yeah.
And boats don't have any steel frames in them.
Right.
If you use the fiberglass correctly, I think you can do what I've proven. The car's 50 years old and it's still good.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing how simple cars used to be. You just strap an engine on and you got your brakes and your speedometer and you go.
You got a speedometer and 3 switches.
Right,
That's all the Volkswagen ever had.
Yeah, much like a Model T.
After you put more dials in, we call them worry gauges. They make you worry because you know too much.
That's right, yeah. Just the basic design just works so perfectly. You got enough sill here to keep you in the vehicle.
That was a committee.
Yeah.
My friends in the shop.
Yeah.
I had a piece of wood on a pair of clamps.
Yeah.
I said, you put it where you want. And after about 3 weeks, I initialed them. And that's where everybody had the happiest place. The farther down, the easier to climb in and out, but the less protected.
Is this all one stamping? Boom? More or less? Yeah. So
one spray up, yeah.
One piece, yeah. Can't help but smile driving this thing.
Is that what it does?
Oh, yeah. When you're 14 years old, you never think, oh, I'd be sitting next to the guy that invented it when he's 89.
We have something in common.
What's that?
You make people laugh, I make people smile.
Oh, yeah, there you go, similar. I still can't get over the fact this is the very first one. It's like driving the first Corvette or the first Mustang. And it's amazing how the manufacturer's cars are so similar to the prototype. A lot of times you drive a prototype vehicle, a lot of changes on it, but Bruce got this one right first time out.
Oh, you're being awfully nice.
You don't realize what an impression you had on us young kids when we were little. When you were a teenager in the 60s, that was the height of the car boom.
You know that 50 years ago, the little boy would, the 6-year-old say, hey mom, look at the cool car.
Yeah.
Today, 50 years later, hey mom, look at the cool car.
Yeah, exactly.
It's timeless.
Yeah, it is timeless. Wow, what a thrill this is. You know, a lot of times you don't want to meet your heroes because they turn out to be something less than what you thought, but that's not the case here. This is a guy I've been reading about since I was 14 years old and following his career. And to have him come to my garage is really exciting. And you know, we talked about, this is a guy who's, everybody in the world stole his idea, but I think the fact that at 89 years old he's still having fun and driving these things shows you that perseverance and a good heart is what keeps you young. So you might not have gotten rich yourself, my friend, but you made us all very rich by what you brought to our hobby. So thank you, my friend.
I'm very rich.
He's very rich. I'm gonna hit him up for some money. See you guys next week.